between us. This is where the journey starts. There is hope in the stillness. There is solace in our friends and in the love that grows between us. This is where the isolation ends. Come full circle in a moment. Hold no shame in what you feel. This old world will keep on turning, and our broken hearts will heal. When the rain falls around you like your solitary tear, in the love that flows between us, know that thunder holds no fear. In the struggle you hold sacred, when the arrows pierce you through, in the love that flows between us, may your courage be renewed. There is music in each silence. There is promise in each day, and in the love that holds between us, may we always find our way. Come full circle in a moment. Hold no shame in what you feel. This old world will keep on turning, and our broken hearts will heal. There's a flame in the darkness, burning deep within our hearts, in the love that grows between us. This is where the journey starts. There is hope in the stillness. There is solace in our friends and in the love that flows between us. The sacred journey never ends. Yes, in the love that holds between us, sacred journey.
Good morning. This will be an interesting Sunday. We've got all sorts of movable parts, and so relax and we're going to have some fun, listen to some great music. So welcome to the Tree of Life Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Alan Shear. My pronouns are he, his, and I'm a member of your worship team this morning along with Joyce DeWitt from Prairie Circle. Chaplain Dave Becker, will be speaking with us online this morning. Our guest speaker and musician this morning is Joe Jencks, who will provide both stories and songs on the topic invitation, ambassadors and diplomats. Joe Jencks is a 25-year veteran of the international folk circuit and award-winning songwriter and celebrated vocalist, as you now already know. He has performed and spoken in over 200 Unitarian Universalist churches throughout the United States, Canada, and Ireland. He has served as cultural ambassador with the United States State Department. We are thrilled and honored to have him with us here today. If you have an opportunity, now is the time to silence your electronic device.
If you would please rise and body your spirit and join in singing and opening. Oh, we got to do a chalice lighting here, brother.
No, you're good.
That's
Are we doing that
okay.
while we're singing?
That's okay. Thank you. It's easy. Thank you so much, Joe, for getting us started, and Alan, and thank you, everyone. I am joining you from my home chapel here. I am sorry to say that I have COVID. So the pieces that I'll be doing will be from online. Hopefully, I know sometimes that can get a little bit sticky, but we have a plan B if for any reason I should get booted offline or should just freeze too long. Ron Relic has a copy of my remarks, so he's ready to jump on in. Um, I'm happy to be here with you. Welcome. This is our first combined service of the new church year with both Tree of Life and Prairie Circle together. It is always such an honor to serve both congregations and to forge this shared ministry that we're creating together. For folks that don't know me, I am Chaplain Dave Becker. You can call me Chaplain Dave. You can call me Pastor Dave, or just Dave is fine. I've been thinking a lot about this phrase, cloud of witnesses, that has been around for a while. I became first familiar with it really through Martin Luther King Jr. Uh, wrote about being surrounded by a cloud of witnesses when he was in Birmingham jail, and wrote the letters from Birmingham jail. And then came to learn that that passage was taken from the book of Hebrews, where it just mentions that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. And I've come to think of that as not only people who've gone before us, but just the vast group of people we're connected to, both those that are alive and those that are no longer with us. Those that have passed on, those who have died, and those who are currently part of our lives. That group, that connected group of people who just love us into being who we are, that love us into being who we are individually, love us into being who we are as a community. That is our cloud of witnesses. And this shared community together is a cloud of witnesses. So I want to invite Joyce DeWitt forward to light our chalice. Our chalice is one of our symbols of our living tradition, and it dates back to the resistance movement of World War II, and so definitely a part of our past, our cloud of witnesses, the people who've loved us into being. If you're online and you have a chalice at home, you can also light your chalice. Now, there are some additional candles that I'm going to ask Joyce to light today. One candle, so there's these tea lights in a dish there on the altar that you may see. And one candle Joyce will light for Janet Burns. Janet, as many of you know, was a beloved member of the Tree of Life community. And today is the 1 year anniversary of her death. And a few days ago, I was talking with Rory Burns. And Rory reminded me that this Sunday would be that 1 year anniversary of his mother's death. And then he handed me this poem. The poem is Forever is Composed of Nows by Emily Dickinson. And he asked that I read that in today's service. And Rory let me know that Janice loved poetry and that Emily Dickinson was one of her many favorite poets. And this particular Dickinson poem is one that has become meaningful to Rory and one that he reads in memory of his mom. It's called Forever is Composed of Nows. Forever is composed of nows. It is not a different time except for infiniteness and a latitude of home. From this experienced here, remove the dates. To these, let months dissolve in further months, and years exhale in years, without debate or pause or celebrated days. No different our years would be from Anno Dominis. I also asked that Joyce light 2 additional candles for Tony and Carol Neese. Tony and Carol are 2 of the founders of the Prairie Circle congregation. Now, with Prairie Circle only being 22 years old, there's founders of the congregation, people who love the congregation, who are still part of the congregation's lives. Tony has had a multi-year struggle with cancer, with periods of remission and resurgence. And Tony's medical team, as well as Tony and Carol themselves, have come to realize that Tony's near the end of his journey, and his life journey is coming to an end, and that he's not going to be with us much longer. So Joyce, along with Tricia Steele and Lynn Kepler, have brought materials for a memory book for Tony and Carol, the book of appreciation and messages that will be available after the service. And if you'd like, you can write your messages of support for Tony and for Carol, or your appreciation for the Prairie Circle congregation that they helped start. So even if you've never met them, they are among the cloud of witnesses who have loved us into being. I invite you to take a moment to hold in your heart others who've loved you into being, people you hold as being among your great cloud of witnesses. They may be people who are living, they may be people who are long gone or recently gone. You are invited, I invite you to call their names out loud one at a time, and Joyce will light a candle of recognition. Or if you choose, rather than saying a name out loud, you can raise your hand and Joyce will acknowledge you and light a candle. Or you can just hold their name in your heart and know that their light is present in your life. So you may begin when you're ready. Joyce, if you run out of candles in that dish, there's more on the altar. Whenever you're ready. from the book of Hebrews. Therefore, surrounded as we are by such a vast cloud of witnesses, let us run with patience and endurance the race that lies before us. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, everyone. Joe will lead us in our opening hymn, number 159, This Is My Song.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing, This Is My Song. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. Great singing. Do more of that.
That was beautiful. Happy New Year to everybody. It is the start of a new church year. Last week, we celebrated water communion at both of our congregations, a reminder of our connection to one another, to the world around us, the ways that we're connected in mystery and in miracle to the universe, to our communities, and to each other. And today we launch a new year in our religious education and religious exploration, and we learn from one another. There are a lot of exciting things happening with our children, our youth, our teachers, and our families in both congregations. I urge you to ask Heather and Jennifer, or even our children and youth and volunteers about some of these things that I'm going to mention. Some of you are familiar with the program Our Whole Lives, known as OWL, the comprehensive sex education program that's age appropriate and developmental and is offered throughout life stages. It truly is one of the gifts of Unitarian Universalism really to the world. And we are excited that we have our youth, our 7 and 9 grade, going through a combined OWL program with both congregations. The last I heard, we had 10 that were signed up. Here at Tree of Life, there's a new program called Quest, which is a problem-solving role-playing program, which is really exciting that some of our young adults have been part of planning and leading for some of our younger participants in our program. Both programs continue to use Soul Matters, and at Prairie Circle, I know Jennifer has some exciting things planned with making connections between the religious education program and the social justice programs, and including doing some upcoming outings and events that will take place outside of regular church hours in order to engage our children and youth in social justice activities. That's just a little bit of what's happening. But I think it's important to celebrate it. There's so much that our children bring to our congregation. There's so much that our teachers bring to our congregations, our volunteers, and our families. So I'd like to just for a moment have the children and the youth from Tree of Life first to just stand up if you're willing and able, so folks are able to see you, and then stay standing. And I'm going to ask then the children and youth from Prairie Circle to stand up as well. And I want you to know, speaking on behalf of the congregation, that I want you to know, that we want you to know, that you're loved, that you're an important part of our community and congregation, and that you bless us with who you are. And can I have Jennifer and Heather stand up too, please? If they're both here. And again, on behalf of the congregation, I want to say that we appreciate you. We appreciate your time, your energy, and your talent do not go unnoticed. You are an important part of our community and our congregation, and you bless us with who you are. Can I have our other religious education teachers and volunteers also stand? And if you're some of the folks that I've mentioned, please just keep standing for a while. But our religious education teachers and volunteers, as you're willing and able, and want to say that we thank you and we appreciate you, and know that you bless our children, you bless our communities, you bless us all with who you are. Adding to the folks who are standing, can I ask family members of the children and youth who are standing or are part of the program and may not be here today, if you would also please stand also. Our children and families are connected. You are loved. You bless us all, our congregation and our community, with who you are. And for all those who who are still seated and are remaining seated, if you're willing and if you're able, please rise in body or spirit. And we are so surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. We are surrounded by those who love us into being. And so as we begin our new year in religious education, religious exploration, and faith formation, may we remember this simple truth and this simple blessing. Please take a moment to repeat after me. It is a blessing to be. It is a blessing to be here. It is a blessing to be here now. It is a blessing to be here now together. Amen. You may be seated. Joe has a reading to share with all of us, and then Tamara will lead us in singing our children and their teachers to today's religious education program in the start of a new year.
These words from Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State during the Obama administration. I have spent a lifetime looking for remedies to all manner of life's problems, personal, social, political, global. I am deeply suspicious of those who offer simple solutions and statements of absolute certainty, or who claim full possession of the truth. Yet I have grown equally skeptical of those who suggest that all is too nuanced and complex for us to learn any lessons, that there are so many sides to everything that we can pursue knowledge every day of our lives and still know nothing for sure. I believe we recognize truth when we see it, just not at first, and not without ever relenting in our efforts to learn more. This is because the goal we seek and the good we hope for comes not as some final reward, but as the hidden companion to our quest. It is not what we find, but the reason we cannot stop looking and striving that tells us why we are here.
Okay, sing the children off. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in every place you can, at all the times you can, to everyone you can, as long as ever you can.
Are we supposed to have this much fun on a worship service? Yes, we are. This is great stuff. I love it. All right, joys and concerns. So that was my joy. This is so much fun. May we now join in sharing greetings with one another. Those who are online, if you wish, please turn on your cameras so we can see you. And those in the sanctuary, of course, they will be able to see you as well. There we all are. Good morning, everyone. All of us together. Thank you all. All together. The sharing of joys and concerns is a sacred moment. To help us grow in community, we invite you to share a few short sentences about your joy or concern. Like a stone dropped in water, reminds us that what affects one ripples out and touches us all. Online participants will be invited first. If you have a joy or concern to share, please click on the raise hand icon in the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen, or for some, the icon may be at the bottom of your participants window. When I call on you, please unmute yourself. Let us honor now the unexpressed joys and concerns that remain in our hearts for the space of 3 deep breaths.
I'd like to ask you to continue to breathe deeply. In the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, and that's included in our Teal hymnal, when you breathe in peace. When you breathe out love. Continue to breathe in slowly. Breathe in peace. And breathe out love. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love. And we'll continue this meditation in silence for the length of a minute. Okay, thank you. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Continue to hang on to that sense of peace, that sense of love.
Each week as we worship, we welcome the offerings that support the work of our community. Many of us have already given our monetary gifts electronically. Still, we set aside this time for the spiritual practice of gratitude. If you're new to Tree of Life, please let this giving opportunity pass you by. Your presence here is your gift to us. For those of you joining us online, you may make your offering in one of three ways, which are listed on your screen or posted in the chat.
Please feel free to join in singing this offering song with me, a song written by my friend and colleague and mentor, Holly Neer. I am open and I am willing to be hopeless. It seems so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is panic in the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. I am open, I am open, and I am willing to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the wind of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. I am open, I am open, and I am willing to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonored those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open, I am open, and I am willing to be hopeless. It seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. So lift me up to the light of change. So lift me up to the light of change.
third Sunday of the month, we donate our non-pledge offering to an organization whose work reflects our Unitarian Universalist values. This month's organization is Kids in Need of McHenry County, and we welcome Alicia Welby to tell us a little bit about the work they do.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me this morning. First, I just want to say this is the most welcomed I've ever felt without actually even speaking to anybody. It is such a beautiful location here, and just the warmth and calmness is amazing. So thank you for having me. My name is Alicia Webby. I am a biological foster and adoptive mother of 6, and I am a foster grandma now too, so that's a new adventure in my life. About 5.5 years ago, after the death of AJ Friend here in our community, like I'm sure many of you, my family was trying to come up with something to do to make ourselves feel better, to give back somehow in a situation that was just unimaginable. So we came up with the idea of putting together some care bags for kids going into foster care, something that all my kids could relate to. So I put out a flyer, did everything you're not supposed to do on social media, and I put my, home address and my phone number and everything I tell my kids not to do. And I posted it thinking we'd pack about 20 bags in a couple of weeks. And overnight, that post blew up, and it was shared a couple hundred times, and within a couple of days, it was shared a couple thousand times. And we took that and turned it into what some of you may know is Stuff the Duffel. About 5.5 years ago, the entire community got together and we packed over 4,000 bags for kids in care. We took that momentum from the community and kind of answered the call of, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? How are you going to keep it going? And we created an organization called Second Bridge. The growth of that merged with Kids in Need of McHenry County, and here we are today. So I am now the executive director of Kids in Need of McHenry County. We serve not just kids in foster care and transition, but any child in transition or crisis. So we work very closely with the social workers in our schools to help identify children who are coming in without their basic necessities met. We work with all other child-serving organizations in our community, both through foster care and outside of it, Options and Advocacy, CASA, you name it, we work with them. We opened a free store here in McHenry County just this year. It is a store where the families can come in. It looks like a little boutique. They can come in and shop for anything they need. We have anything from clothes, shoes, household items, brand new toys are all provided by Toys for Tots. It's just a beautiful store. So we have that. We have our donation center where the organizations and the families can request what they need, and we deliver it right to their door. We also have a visitation home downtown Crystal Lake where kids who are in care can visit with their biological families in a home environment. So right now, the visits are held at a library or in a McDonald's, and these parents are responsible for keeping the children quiet and in one location while they're being judged on their parenting for 4 to 6 hours sometimes. So we have a home. It is a fully functioning home, a kitchen. They can cook for their children. We have a play set in the backyard. They can bathe their children. They can put their pajamas on them before they send them back to the foster parent. Everything we do is to provide dignity for these families, whether it's the foster families, whether it's for the kids or the biological families, whether they're coming into our store or to our visitation home, we want to treat them with dignity. And no judgment. So we really do appreciate what you guys are doing, whether it's you guys or your youth. I love that you have your youth involved in the community. It's what I am about, so please think of us. We love when the kids are helping kids. So I really appreciate you having me out. Thank you.
I missed my cue. There will be an offering plate in the back if you would like to contribute to the Kids in Need of McHenry County, and thank Alicia for that. So there will be another opportunity to give to this worthy organization. Let's see. I think you're up now.
It is absolutely my pleasure and privilege to be here with you today. I apologize, I'm dealing with some monster allergies. For those that are concerned about the hacks and coughs I'm making, I've tested for COVID 3 days in a row, including this morning. Totally free and clear, just a lot of corn dust. I recently moved out, way out into the cornfields in between DeKalb and Rochelle. And my body is having some responses to the environment that were unexpected. So I just wanted to put everybody at ease. There's so many things that I want to share with you. I could take 2 hours to talk about the experiences I have had in the last 25 years as a full-time touring musician, traveling all over North America, Central America, the Caribbean, Ireland. It's hard to know where to begin. But I want to start with some words from President Barack Obama. Something he said during the speech that he gave receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009. The promotion of human rights cannot be about exhortation alone. At times, it must be coupled with painstaking diplomacy. I know that engagement with repressive regimes lacks the satisfying purity of indignation, but I also know that sanctions without outreach, condemnation without discussion, can carry forward only a crippling status quo. No repressive regime can move down a new path unless it has the choice of an open door. What's he saying there? We have to be willing to make room for people to change if change is going to happen. This is elemental. It's in our personal relationships with our partners, our spouses, our families, our family of origin. Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Buddhist teacher, said once, if you think you have mastered your practice, spend an afternoon with your family. This painstaking diplomacy that Obama talks about, this sentence just slays me every time. I know that engagement with repressive regimes lacks the satisfying purity of indignation. I have to tell you, in those 25 years, I have been blessed to see the very best of humanity. I have been blessed to see people helping each other in extraordinary ways. I have also seen people criticizing others using the same tone that they are criticizing others about. I have seen people set up sort of dualistic systems of communication, polarized systems of communication. And sometimes we like to think that in a liberal religious tradition that we are immune to this, that we are somehow above this or beyond this. Those of you who have ever served on the board of your church or on a committee for your community, for your fellowship, know that this is not true. The temptation to give in to that satisfying indignation is an incredibly strong gravitational force in our relationships. And the invitation from Obama is not just to other diplomats and to other world leaders. It is an individual invitation to all of us to reach beyond wherever we are, somewhere in our lives, and recognize that we are called to be diplomats. We are called to be ambassadors. We are called to reach out to other people. In 12-step traditions, there's the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, the 12 guidelines, and most programs, whatever they may be, follow a very similar pattern. The 11th tradition says our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. So what does it mean to be a cultural ambassador, to go into the world from our liberal religious standpoint and not proselytize about our ideas, our views, our politics, but walk out with our palms open, ready to be ambassadors, ready to let attraction rather than promotion be the way that we move in the world as spiritual people. I watched an extraordinary thing play out at a Unitarian church in suburban New Jersey. I was invited to speak there one weekend without really understanding what I was stepping into to sing and to speak. And it turned out that the congregation was embroiled in a phenomenal conflict because there was a Republican member of the congregation who recognized that what was once a neighborhood church was no longer a neighborhood church. No one in their neighborhood came to their church. People were driving for miles in other directions, but nobody in the community was coming to their church. Why was that? Because a lot of Spanish-speaking churches had moved in, a lot of Spanish-speaking Christians had moved into the neighborhood, and Unitarian Universalism looked a little strange to them. And so they were going to the iglesia of their choice, and he had this idea, what if we host a pig roast in the parking lot and invite all of our neighbors for whom this is a sign of hospitality? Those that come from the Caribbean, those that come from Mexico and Central America and South America. A pig roast is a sign of hospitality. Let's have a pig roast in the Unitarian Church parking lot and give food for free to anybody who wants it. I cannot describe, without wasting my time with you, how contentious it was within the congregation that they wanted to spend congregational money on a pig roast. The vegetarians and the vegans were up in arms about it. The animal rights activists were up in arms about it. The climate awareness people were up in arms about it. There was this massive war going on in this congregation, and I walked in unaware of any of it on pig roast day. Music does indeed have the power to soothe the savage instinct. And through my words and through my music, I did seem to bridge some of those gaps. But it was astonishing to me because I really could understand why people had reservations about congregational money going to purchase a whole hog that would then be roasted. I also deeply understood the perspective of this very centrist Republican who placed hospitality above all things, and believed that if they wanted their congregation to be engaged again with the community, they had to move toward the community rather than expecting the community to move toward them. They had to let go of the, we are righteous because we do this, we are righteous because we do that. In a non-creedal faith, it is easy to attach our identity to very particular values in the world and say, this is who we are. But speaking only for myself, I will say that if we cannot get past the notion that hospitality is preeminent, radical hospitality is preeminent in a liberal religious tradition, and that we must let go of the satisfaction of indignation in order to lean into that, we may never achieve what we really want to achieve in terms of serving the community and being woven into the fabric of community. It was an extraordinary thing to witness, and when the community, that spiritual community, witnessed how many of their neighbors showed up for the pig roast, they began to see the wisdom that was playing out there. They began to understand that there was a pathway to engaging their neighbors Whether or not they chose to come to that fellowship spiritually, they could work together on community projects. They were tearing down the walls of other and building the fabric of community. I was raised in Rockford, Illinois. I would say I grew up, but I don't think that ever happened. They tried hard, but, you know, I did my level best to avoid that. But I grew up in neighborhoods where there was contention. And I watched that contention shift over the course of my early childhood. I watched communities become more racially integrated. So much so that it was shocking to me to enter the world post-high school and realize how segregated the world still was, because where I lived, it was not. This was a bit of a shock to me, but part of my connection to communities, the African American community, the Latina community in my hometown, had to do with one woman, Dorothy Page Turner, a phenomenal musician and music educator. And from the time I was in kindergarten and she was music teacher at Garrison Elementary, she was teaching us songs and hymns and anthems of the civil rights movement. She was teaching us songs in Spanish and in Japanese. She was teaching us songs in Russian. Can you imagine how warm and fuzzy certain people felt about their children learning the Russian language in music class in the mid-1970s? Yeah, she was brave. She knew that she had the opportunity through music to raise global citizens, because through the music we would see each other differently. And this was important because we had students from Korea, from Vietnam, from Laos, from Cambodia. We had African American students, a Japanese student. We had Latino and Latina students. We had students that represented diversity, and she knew that the music program had to reflect that. What I think the school board maybe didn't quite recognize is that she was giving us all of the left end of this cultural music. She was not proselytizing to us about her own worldviews. She was simply giving us music that told us a story of the struggles that were going on and the need to be engaged with each other. It was a beautiful message. She left that school when I was in second grade, but when I was just entering high school, she had founded something called the Black Theater Ensemble in my hometown. And as a teenager, she invited me into the Black Theater Ensemble as the only Caucasian member in the ensemble. But she knew that it was incredibly important for young people to connect to each other, for young people to understand that, I'm looking for a particular quote, here it is. These words from Coretta Scott King. Like life, racial understanding is not something that we find, but something that we must create. And so the ability of Negroes and whites to work together to understand each other will not be found ready-made. It must be created by fact of contact. It will not be found ready-made. It must be created through contact. What my guy in New Jersey was trying to do with the pig roast is what Dorothy was doing by bringing me into the Black Theater Ensemble. And as the youth in this ensemble got to learn from each other, and the adults and the elders, it was a multi-generational ensemble, as we presented the story of African Americans in the history of North America in a light that was not portrayed in textbooks at that time. We were building bridges that we didn't understand, but she could see it. She knew these words from Coretta. She knew this concept that you have to proactively, by any means at your disposal, and for her, music and art was the tool. We have to bring people together in a way that creates a more natural flow of communication and sense of connection. And I have to tell you that music and food are two of the best diplomatic tools I have ever encountered. You offer to feed people, they're more likely to consider you, human. They may not like what you think, but if you're offering them good food, they'll probably take it. And they go, well, present company accepted, of course, like this is how we survive Thanksgiving dinner in many of our families. We put down good food and we hope that it bridges the distance. Dorothy did amazing things, and she taught me amazing things as a blossoming young activist and artist. It was an incredible gift. The fact that Dorothy is still living and is still a friend of mine is an even greater gift. She came to my concert last night in Rockford, and it was a delight to have somebody there who can still call me Little Joe. And I will forever in her mind be Little Joe. And yeah, it was amazing. But one time after a very intense rehearsal at the New American Theater in Rockford, we were working in the Black Box Theater in the basement. And after a particularly intense rehearsal where I had to play the role of a slave auctioneer, I went to the edge of the stage and I sat down and I began to weep. And she came over and she placed her hand over my heart and her other hand on my shoulder. And she looked me in the eye and she said, "We have asked you to take on a very difficult burden in order to help us tell a story that must be told. But no one here is confused about who you are." And one by one, the ensemble came over and they started laying hands on me. It was like biblical. They just put hands, and if they couldn't reach me, they would touch the person who was touching me. And we had a moment. And she repeated again because everyone needed to hear it. "No one here," she said this to the whole ensemble, "no one here is confused about who you are." The invitation to diplomacy, the invitation to consider it our personal responsibility to be ambassadors of goodwill in the world, is just this kind of affirmation. How many young people would be interrupted in their trajectory toward the criminal justice system if someone were there to simply say, "No one here is confused about who you are"? What would happen if George Floyd had been met by a social worker riding along with a patrol officer, and that social worker was able to stand in and say, "No one here is confused about who you are"? If there were someone in the system prepared to dismantle the tension, how could that change things? And what does it mean for us in our individual relationships and lives to be a person that is ready to help diffuse the tension and remind us of our shared humanity? Dorothy had us singing all kinds of songs. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. And not just the biblical verses, the social justice verses that got tacked on during the civil rights movement as well. She had us singing as kindergartners, first graders. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. And we sang the verses about, ain't gonna let no police turn me around, ain't gonna let no fire hose turn me around. Took me till I was in high school to understand the verse about the fire hose. But, she was planting seeds so that when we encountered these ideas in the world, we would come back to the songs and be like, "Oh, no, wait, I've heard that. That's how I feel. I'm a dual U.S.-Irish citizen, but I've known a bunch of Irish songs and tunes my whole life, and I can't go anywhere in Ireland without starting to hum or sing songs because I see road signs that say Bantry Bay, 14 miles, and I'm like, from Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin, to, you know. And my friend Tom that used to drive me around Ireland when I first started traveling there, he's like, oh God, you're one of those people. You have a song for every name. And indeed I did. But the invitation is real, from Obama's Nobel speech to what Dorothy did when I was a kid, to somebody having a pig roast in a UU church parking lot. Very different scale of diplomacy, but all equally valid, all equally significant in bridging gaps. And so I think it's important for us to consider. I invite you to ask yourself, where in my life is there a need for diplomacy? Where in my life is there a need for intervention? Where in my life is there a need for a cessation of tension long enough for people to begin communicating in earnest? Much to my surprise, I received an invitation about 15 years ago to work with the U.S. State Department in a program they had at the time that they referred to as Cultural Ambassador Program, where they would take artists and musicians and theater people and they would send them out into the world in parallel with our diplomats at various levels, and they would ask us to engage the community. And I was specifically asked, as a result of my connection to the civil rights movement, thank you Dorothy Page Turner for teaching us those songs as kindergartners, I was asked to go down to the Caribbean and visit 5 island nations and do workshops in schools and libraries, and in the evenings give concerts specifically focused on the social justice music, on the civil rights movement, on the labor movement, because the social justice movements of the 1920s through the 1960s had a huge impact on the culture in the Caribbean and led to sovereignty for many Caribbean nations. The first stop on that tour was in Antigua Barbuda, and I was given very precise protocol because the Queen's Regent, the representative of the Crown, was going to be there. They were still part of the Commonwealth, and I had to be schooled in protocol. You treat the Regent as if it were the sovereign themselves there. You don't turn your back on the Regent. You only approach when invited. You don't seek physical contact. You only accept a hand if it's offered. You absolutely do not embrace. You back away respectfully several steps, and then you can turn. There'll be an honor guard there, all of this kind of stuff. And it was all very formal. And her honor guard was, she was in her late 70s, and her honor guard was clearly in his mid-60s, but they were both dressed very formally. And they came into this auditorium where I was given a concert, and he was impossibly stiff and stone-faced, and she was quite reserved and dignified. And about halfway through the concert, I start singing, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around," and she starts singing. And I see her honor guard look sideways at her real quick. This is new. And then she starts clapping. "Ain't gonna let no police turn me around," you know. And at this, the honor guard was like, "What?" After the performance, she came up to me, she extended her hand, and then she threw caution to the wind and gave me a big hug. At which point I thought her honor guard was going to deck me, but he did not, to his credit. Mind you, this was the Caribbean in July. I was wearing a full suit in an undercooled room, and she chose to embrace me anyway. I was visibly quite warm. It seemed not to matter to her. And then she started talking to me about her parents going to school in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance. She told me about their commitment to send her to college in the States in the 1960s, the late 50s and early 60s, so that she would learn this culture of self-determination, this culture of an expectation of dignity and respect, human rights, civil rights. So she knew all these songs because she marched in the marches I learned about as a kid. She was a part of that movement. And suddenly I understood why the State Department wanted me to do that. Fast forward almost 2 weeks, and I'm on the last 2 days of the tour, and I'm closing out with a performance on national television in Grenada. And they have a minister of culture, which I think is brilliant. He was an actor and a performer, but in a country of 120,000 people, there's a doubling up of responsibilities if you're going to get everything done that a nation needs to get done. So he was asked to do different things and eventually became Minister of Culture. And part of his deal was, okay, but once a week I get to host a show on national television where I support the arts. I bring in artists of all kinds, local and international, and we talk about the arts and the importance of the arts. And so again, in an old school television studio, no LEDs, giant can lights for television, radiating BTUs at me on a day that is already ridiculously hot, and me still wearing a suit because the State Department wanted me to wear a suit everywhere I went, publicly, while representing them. I did get to go to the beach on my own, but yeah, and I'm literally sweating bullets. I'm just, ugh. And after I'd played several songs, protest songs, civil rights songs, labor songs, the Minister of Culture is over here, Bernard Link, a wonderful man who was the Chargé d'Affaires. It sounds more important when you say it in French, but the guy in charge. Any place where we have an embassy without an ambassador, the Chargé d'Affaires is responsible, the highest diplomatic position there. So it's the Minister of Culture, the Chargé d'Affaires, and I'm down on this end. And the minister looks at Mr. Link and says, Mr. Link, we receive Mr. Jencks' music in a very patriotic light. He is singing about the goodness of the people of the United States and the power of the people, and yet the things he's singing about seem in conflict with many of the ways in which your country tends to practice some of its ideals. Why is it that the State Department, why is it that your government would bring somebody like him here to do what he's doing? And Mr. Link, in true diplomatic form, said, Minister, that's an excellent question. I'd like to let Mr. Jencks answer that. Thanks, bro. It was a moment that was filled with grace in a way that I can't claim credit for. It just came through me and it came out in the right way. There's something known as the shepherd's prayer, not in reference to scripture, but in reference to Alan Shepard, the astronaut, and what he said the first time he went up. And he said on a live mic, Dear Lord, don't let me up. They're like, Alan, you're on a live mic. But it became known in aerospace circles as the shepherd's prayer. Dear Lord, don't let me screw up. I said that to myself and I opened my mouth. And I said, Minister, first, let me thank you for welcoming me into your country and onto your show. What an immense privilege as an artist to be here with you in this country. When you ask, why would my nation invite me to be here with you? I think it has to do with this. A thriving democracy must be strong enough and resilient enough to withstand voices of dissent. It must be strong enough to incorporate civic dialogue from many different angles in order to thrive. True patriotism is not totalitarianism. True patriotism is making room for diversity of opinion and not punishing diversity of opinion, but in fact celebrating it. And I think the reason my country would invite me to come here to witness a young democracy blossoming. Grenada at the time had had self-rule only for about 3 decades. And I said, I think the reason my country would invite me here to sing these kinds of songs is to remind the good people of Grenada that dissent is essential and healthy in a democracy, and we have to find peaceful ways of expressing our concerns and our divergent opinions from which we can distill a pathway that will serve the most number of people peacefully. And for me, music is the way that I do that. Interview ended, got out of there, ditched the wool jacket, went out to lunch with the charge d'affaires. And he looks at me after a few bites of our lunch and he says, "Have you ever considered taking your foreign service exam?" I said, "No, I have a degree in singing, thank you very much." He says, yeah. But I just watched you do something that I can't teach. I can teach you policy. I can't teach you what you just did. That has a place in the world, whether or not you do it for your government or do it in other ways. Keep doing that kind of work. It matters. And I say to you, however you do the work that you do in the world, keep doing it because it matters. Bridging these gaps, bridging the distance, taking a risk, being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be ignorant. Ignorant and stupid are not the same thing. We have to be very comfortable being ignorant to do this work. And we enter other people's spaces and other people's cultures and other people's neighborhoods as students. We go into other people's homes as students or their houses of worship as students. We volunteer for their nonprofit organizations as students first. And we learn how they are doing their work and why they are doing that way, rather than coming in with an assumption that we know the right way. We go as students, palms up, into the world, waiting to be educated by the people around us. And then we can truly lend our hand to really be helpful, and we can help bridge these gaps. But I'm telling you, a good casserole goes a long way. It really does, and a good song even farther. With that, I'd love to invite you to sing with me a song that I wrote that seems apropos. I was, speaking of cultural ambassadors, I was privileged to be friends with Pete Seeger for several years, about 15 years before he passed. And he said to me once, and he said to many people over the course of his life, but in a particular conversation with me, he said, "I don't understand why people called me a protest singer. Because if you look at what I wrote, what I recorded, what I put on my stages, I spent my life singing about what I was for, much more than what I was against. It's hard to go through the world being against something. It's so much better to be for something." And I needed to hear that in that place in my life and in that time. And so just this last March, I got an invitation, an unlikely invitation, to a Fox News affiliate in Austin, Texas, to play on their morning show. And in March of this year, I have to tell you that the temptation to give in to that satisfying indignation that Obama was talking about was very real. To have that microphone on a Fox affiliate, I was so eager to sing and talk about immigration rights, about women's reproductive rights, about workers' rights. They're reenacting laws in Texas that allow for child labor. Mother Jones is rolling in her grave. And then I remembered what Pete said. It's better to be for something than against something. I remembered the charge d'affaires saying, whatever you do, keep doing the work of bridge building. It's so important. And I chose this next song to sing instead of many others that I might have sung. I chose this next song because it felt like it was nearer to that message. A song I wrote about a year and a half ago based on a haiku that a friend had sent to me. Interestingly enough, I wrote it at the UUA General Assembly in Pittsburgh on Sunday morning after what had been a very colorful and at times contentious convention. We'll pop the lyrics up, and as you feel comfortable, please feel free to sing with me. lay down your weapons. Love has you surrounded. There is no easy way out. Lay down your shield. Let your heart break just a little. Let love remove all doubt. You go through the world, everybody's sweetheart, keeping up a front that wears you down. But in a quiet moment, the truth comes out. Some days you feel like you're about to drown. Lay down your weapons. So lay down your weapons. Love has you surrounded. No easy way out. There is no easy way out. Lay down your shield. Let your heart break. Lay down your shield. Let your heart break just a little. Let love remove all doubt. What do you need? By what measure would you know that you are more than what you achieve? When you look in the mirror, is it possible to see that you are enough? So let it breathe. Lay down your weapons. So lay down your weapons. Love has you surrounded. There is no easy way out. Lay down your shield. Let your heart break just a little. Let love remove all doubt. There is no reason to play this charade. You can be loved for who you are. And for every troubled thought that crosses your mind, please know that you are someone else's shining star. And lay down your weapons. Love has you surrounded. There is no easy way out. Lay down your shield. Lay down your shield. Let your heart break just a little. Let love remove all doubt. Lay down your shield. Let your heart break just a little. Let love remove all doubt. A friend of mine in the news business in LA had been watching this broadcast from his laptop online. And he texted me afterwards, said, "Nice job, man." I said, "Thank you. I felt like I really wished that I could have been a little more of an activist in the moment." He said, "You went on a Fox News affiliate and the first words out of your mouth were to sing, 'Lay down your weapons. Love has you surrounded.' I think you did just fine." These words from Harold George Nicholson, whose father was a diplomat. He was a diplomat for England. At the end of his life, he did a lot of writing. Throughout his life, he was, as they would say, a man of letters. But he really was reflecting on the work of his father's life and on his own life. And he wrote this: "These then are the qualities of my ideal diplomatist: truth, accuracy, calm, patience, good temper, modesty, and loyalty. They are also the qualities of an ideal diplomacy." But the reader may object, "You have forgotten intelligence, knowledge, discernment, prudence, hospitality, charm, industry, courage, and even tact." I have not forgotten them. I have taken them for granted. On a good day, if we can reach for any of these qualities in our interactions with other people, we are moving things forward. We are choosing to be bridge builders, to be ambassadors, and to be diplomats. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. What an amazing message. I'm going to invite us just to take a moment to just pause and sit with some of what we've heard. I feel like so much of what Joe has shared with us today is relevant, so relevant to the work that we're doing together in our congregations and the work that we're doing together in our communities. When Joe and I were talking about this service, I wanted to move the announcements to the end of the service rather than the beginning. And there were two reasons for that. One is so that if we needed to, if we needed to be brief somewhere, we could be brief with the announcements. So I will strive to be brief. The other reason was that many of our announcements this week really connecting with the community around us, connecting with each other in the ways that we are striving to be ambassadors and diplomats. So I do want you to know, oh, there we go. I do want you to know that Joe has generously agreed to just hang out for a little bit and do a short Q&A. So we'll do a short Q&A before we break for our fellowship time and our treats. There's a postcard writing party today for folks who are contributing to writing postcards to encourage others to vote. That's something that's been happening at each congregation for several weeks now. And between all of us, we have sent many, many postcards. We have a group that has formed between the two congregations called You Use, We Show Up. And it's people from both of our congregations that are contributing to events that are already happening in McHenry County and Lake County and helping with service. The first one coming up is next Saturday. It's called Creation Care. It's at the Pleasant Valley Conservation Center from 1 to 4. If you would like to be there, please also RSVP on the Faith Bridge website. We will be planting native plants and trees, and they want to have a count for the number of plants and trees that they're going to need. So please plan on coming and please RSVP. The other one that's coming up is in October, with the Northern Illinois Food Bank. And anybody who's interested in that event needs to talk to Judy Young. Judy, if you're here, will you raise your hand? Judy's with the Prairie Circle congregation. She needs to put in reservations by this Friday with the folks at the food bank. There is a new Chalice Circle starting up that's around creativity that Leah Mickelson will be starting. So see Leah if that sounds like something that you're interested in. And I know some of the folks at Prairie Circle are interested in just getting Chalice Circles going. So Leah and Emmy are both wonderful people to talk to. Next Sunday, a week from today at 1:30, the McHenry County Jewish congregation, who is now sharing space with us here at the Tree of Life, has invited all of us to a storytelling and dessert event by Noah Baum, who's an internationally known storyteller from Israel, an Israeli storyteller who will be also sharing stories of building bridges. and creating understanding of compassion. It's a 1-hour program with desserts. A reminder, additional details on all of these things can be found in the Tree of Life happenings or the Prairie Circle e-weekly. Please feel free to cross-list yourself on these things. And just as a heads up, something to watch for in these in our newsletters is that Joe, if you've enjoyed Joe today, you can come back and hear him some more. He will be doing a concert in support of Lake County PADS through a grant that he helped the Prairie Circle congregation get. With more info soon. We were just talking about that the other night, trying to compare calendars and find a date. And last but not least, for anybody who's here for the first time, we are so glad that you're here. Please take the time to fill out our online visitor card or our in-person visitor card. We would love to follow up with you and chat with you, and please just hang out and chat with people here if you have time. I'd like to invite Joyce DeWitt forward for the lighting of our chalice. And we will say these words together, or the extinguishing of our chalice, sorry, the opposite of lighting. So we will say our extinguishing chalice words. They should be up on the screen, our congregational words. And Joyce, if you'll extinguish the chalice after we say these things. We extinguish this flame of communal worship and now carry its light within us. Thank you so much. Joe has our benediction and closing hymn.
I wish you peace and every blessing on your journey as you learn to cherish each and every day. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. I wish you peace and every blessing. I wish you peace and every blessing on your journey as you learn to cherish each and every day. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. One more time. I wish you peace. I wish you peace and every blessing on your journey as you learn to cherish each and every day, to cherish each and every day. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. If you would please rise in body or spirit as you are comfortable and join me in a closing song that you don't know, but no worries, you'll figure it out. I've heard you sing. You'll get there. I wrote this song after nearly drowning. In the Klamath River in Northern California. It comes across as maybe being biblically influenced, but that's only because staring mortality in the face is of biblical proportions, if you've ever done it. But I wrote this kind of imagining what would a Unitarian Universalist gospel song sound like. And it is the gospel of community. It is the gospel of the helping hand. It is the gospel of those that are willing to jump in the water, not just write a check or throw a floating something, but actually get in the water with someone who is struggling. and reconnect them to their power and to their capacity, which is exactly what happened to me. A woman was on a retreat. I used to be a Red Cross certified lifeguard, and I got myself in trouble because I fancied myself to still be a strong swimmer. That sense of self was at least 10 years out of date. And it was a classic sin of hubris, but there I was in the river, starting to drown and suck water into my lungs, and my shoulders froze, and I was panicked, and things were not going well. And suddenly a woman was beside me. To my eternal benefit, she was a current Red Cross certified lifeguard and a surfer. She did none of the lifeguard carries I expected that I had learned. She just sat there treading water and invited me to place my hands on her shoulders, and she invited me to take a deep breath, and then another, and then another, and then another. And as she saw the color come back to my cheeks and the panic leave my eyes, she said, "Okay, let's keep swimming." I was like, I thought you were here to save me. I'm thinking to myself. But she really did. She did what we do when we gather in beloved community. She connected me to my breath. She connected me to my center. She separated me from my panic and reminded me that I had power, that I had capacity. We give this gift to each other every time we meet. So thank you for holding this beautiful space. Thank you for inviting me into it. I invite you, as we're singing this, to look around this room a little bit and notice with gratitude the people who are swimming in the river with you. I feel the current raging around me. Try to summon up my strength once more. I am weary on this journey, afraid I will not reach that distant shore. I cry for help, feel like I'm sinking. There is no one near me I can see, but there you are in the water with me. Take my hand and guide me graciously. Will you come with me? Will you come with me on this journey? On this journey, with every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone I will falter, that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. There is a kindness in your smile and a gentleness within your speech. You reassure me, your love surrounds me. I know safety is at last within my reach. Will you come with me? Will you come with me on this journey? With every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. It's an illusion we carry with us as we wade on through the waters of our lives. But we must be strong and hold our own here. But a helping hand will save us by and by. Will you come with me? Will you come with me on this journey? On this journey, with every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone I will falter. I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on.
Thanks for singing.